Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025, meeting of the Newburgh and Large City School District, Library Committee meeting. Have myself here, Mr. John DeRay, Clerk of the Board, Matthew McCoy, Acting Superintendent, Ms. Onyx Peterson, and please introduce yourselves to the crowd.
I'm Ben Gawker, the Library Director.
Patty Sussman, Assistant Director.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Mr. Gawker, and let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Bergerelli. I hope you all had a chance to read the report. Something I would really like to highlight, I won't go over the whole report, but the summer reading statistics. We really put an emphasis on getting registration started earlier and incentivizing them. So every year we have a big family reading day. This year was no different. Because of the weather, we had to hold it inside, but we still had, I would say, over 500 people. And we started registering families and children then. We also, with a partnership with the Sloop Clearwater, incentivized early registrations for families and kids by offering the opportunity to win a raffle ticket to go for a sail on the Sloop Clearwater. That's a boat that people can see from the shores here in Newburgh, and people got a chance to go for a sail on that. So as you can see, kid registrations were up by about 50%, and adult registrations were up by about 40%. So this is just part of our ongoing sort of emphasis on literacy and just messaging more earlier and more often through summer reading to get people reading all summer long. So we're really proud of that work. Some other things of note, we did wrap up the NEA Big Read grant, which we had, and which we applied for with the school district. That was a huge success. The author, David Thomas Martinez, came for a visit. And then the next day, he went to NFA Maine and met with a class of students there. And it sounds like that event was really well received. And other than that, I'd like to point out that Patty Sussman, our assistant director, is retiring in December. She's been an amazing assistant director, and she's a phenomenal librarian, and we'll be sad to see her go.
Very sad.
I'll still volunteer, trust me.
Thank you.
Are there any questions about anything as outlined in the report?
Mr. DeRay?
Sure, I see that the strategic planning is coming to an end in 2026, and you mentioned board participation. I wasn't around for the last one. What does that look like in terms of a timeline to get that going?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. So typical strategic planning timeline, about 3 to 6 months. We think we can accomplish it within 3 months. We're looking to hire a consultant this time around. Patty and I were just reviewing the strategic plan that we have on the books, and that was really done in-house without a consultant. The methodology is outlined on the back of that plan. So we were thinking we could begin as late as July next fiscal year and have a plan in place by the beginning of 2027. So that's probably the timeline now. That could be revised earlier, but that's what we're going to work with for now.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No.
All right, thanks. Okay, next up we have the Central Library Services Aid budget. This is for review. It will go to the General Board for approval. Each year we receive funding from the state that's distributed through RCLS. This funding underwrites shared resources among the consortium. Not a lot of big changes here. One thing I would draw your attention to, we've created a new budget line for print core collection development. I think there's been a large emphasis placed on digital collections. We're going to move away from an entire emphasis on digital back to some print collections. So we've created workflows for the consortium and a procedure that they can submit requests for books that they don't have in their libraries and don't have budget for, that we could then house here at Central, and we could farm out throughout the consortium through interlibrary loan. So this is really just a pilot of $5,000. We'll see how that works, and we may look to add more funding to that line. And that was the biggest change. We moved away from tutor.com, and I understand its importance to students here in the district, but we just weren't seeing engagement. We weren't seeing use. We have in-house live human tutors, and we get a lot more kids through those tutors than we were seeing on tutor.com. We do have LinkedIn Learning, which also provides some professional development and school help, so we hope that that would be an adequate replacement. So any questions on this?
Just one on, you have a new vendor, or it looks like a new vendor, SpringShare.
They're,
That's right. Yeah, SpringShare, let's see, where is that
they're,
one?
LibGuides. They're
Yep.
not really a new.
Yeah, it's not a new vendor. These are our LibGuides. So a LibGuide, that's sort of library shorthand for creating like a sort of discovery pathway. If there's a topic, say on Frederick Douglass and Newburgh, or how to access social services, library staff will create a LibGuide, and so it'll list resources, whether it's websites or in print, phone numbers, sort of like an email, almost like a directory. And SpringShare is the software that manages those LibGuides. So we have both an internal LibGuide for staff, we have an external LibGuide for the public, and so that's the software for that.
Okay, and the $17,500, it says 7/126 to 6/30. Is that the cost for the 3 years, or is it an annual cost?
That's right, that's 3 years. Yeah. And that's for the whole consortium, so all 46 member libraries, yeah.
Thank you.
With the dropping of tutor.com, does the district have any thoughts on that, on the loss of that resource?
I think it's about usage, and if there's not appropriate usage, we've been looking at different usage for even for our software. I know that the library does offer different tutorial programs that students have to engage in, and there's been different things through family and community engagement to get that participation, but with licenses and software, even in district, if we're not seeing the usage and people aren't engaging, we shouldn't be continuing it.
Thank you.
So next up, we have a number of policies. As I'm sure you're aware, the last time library policies were reviewed and updated was 2008. So we've been going through the policies that we have on the books and looking at what policies we need to add. So the list here represents sort of a first offering of either reviewed, updated policies or new policies in total. Were there any specific questions on any of the policies we're presenting here today?
John?
Well, the first one is the internet safety. Excuse me, the internet safety, if you could put it up. It's the one right on top. Oh, it's on top of mine, yeah. And just identify what are we changing.
The biggest change here, we are availing ourselves of the E-rate funding, and you have to be SIPA compliant. There really wasn't language in our library policy. We have an internet use policy, but we didn't have an internet safety policy. So we worked with an E-rate consultant, and they said, you need to review your policy, add specific language about SIPA compliance. And some of that's pulled directly from the district policy, particularly the definitions of what child pornography is, what harmful to minors is, what those meanings are, and that the library is filtering for content like that, because only if you filter for that are you able to receive federal funding to buy equipment. And for instance, this year, we went out for about a $35,000 network upgrade, but we're only paying a fraction of that because we are SIPA compliant. So it's just making sure the policies are updated and meet all the federal guidelines to receive E-rate funding specifically. Yeah. Oh, and in the past, I would say the internet use policy that we have on the book says kids need written permission from their parents. But we're doing away with that. It seemed old, outdated, and onerous. So,
Thank you.
yep.
I don't have any further.
Anything else? That was it? Okay. Moving right along. So we wanted to discuss the go ahead, Alex.
So for the policies, Matthew, if you can put those in the next for first read.
Yeah, along with that, the Newburgh Central Library
Yeah.
budget review, so that needs to be approved by the full board.
Yeah.
Along with the policies.
Yes.
You want the policies to be a first reading?
Yeah.
At the next meeting on the 9th? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. So we wanted to discuss the capital project. I've included 2 documents that I received from CS Arch. I asked for whatever files they had. So a little bit of background. This project really kind of started in earnest, I would say 2017. And plans were sort of announced maybe 2 weeks before everything shut down because of COVID. So the project really sort of stalled. My predecessor, Mary Lou Carolyn, saw through the creation of the hub and a local history room. And we've had to widen the scope of that project to add a local history workroom to satisfy the DLD construction grant. So once that project's done, that is sort of like what you're seeing phase 1 here, but not in its entirety. But CS Arch has outlined and designed a whole 5-phase capital plan to reimagine and renovate the library space. But what I would like to do is consider opening up for redesign with CS Arch's help or not, with staff involvement and with involvement from the community. Because I don't think, and everything I've seen and staff I've talked to, there weren't really focus groups or town halls to get input from the community or from staff about how this space should be redesigned. So I would like to have a design that really reflects community need and staff need. Just in looking over the plans, some things stick out, like I'm not sure that there's space for all the staff. So, but what I would like to do is have a plan on the books that we all believe in collectively and that we can move towards accomplishing. So just wanted to sort of start the discussion here about where we go, what the next steps would be.
So with talk about a redesign, looking at it again, talking to the community, how's it going to affect currently right now air conditioning in the building and stuff right there? There were certain phases supposed to complete certain things, and how is that going to affect that issue?
Yeah, so if we can complete the project that we have, they're obligated to finish our reporting on by June of 2027 to the state. That'll handle that HVAC component that's kind of been left hanging as we had to widen the scope to address that. So I really feel like it would be a good place to stop, reevaluate, and move forward because that's a discrete phase of this overall capital plan. So now we could look at, okay, what are we doing on the main level, right? What are we doing in the reading room on the second floor? And to the extent that it's not reflected here, there's no redesign or thought into the first floor, which is a large staff space. But it's also a shared space with the district, so maybe that presents some issues. But so I think we could move, once we complete this project, we could really kind of step back and reevaluate without, any issues. Yeah.
Has there been any communication with CS Arch about their workload and whether they could handle taking a look at this design right now, or?
I'll be honest, it's been, they have their hands full with a lot of other projects, so I think it's hard to get their full attention. So I don't know if we need to explore other options or to maybe get a better idea from CF Arch if they can honestly tackle this too.
Please.
So I think that especially with capital projects, when we set out, a lot of our capital projects were prior to COVID. And even in some of the designs that we have seen that we've had to go through a design stage to really assess what we can. I think fiscally, the landscape pre-COVID and post-COVID are vastly different when it comes to cost of materials. I do think that if we have changing needs, I think the library in certain ways, they're utilizing things in a different way. Like for one of the things, for instance, in Ben's director's report, they have a social worker. That's something that is very, cutting edge. Libraries are starting to do that. The needs changed from the library from 1 minute to the next. So prior in this design, let's just say, you didn't need a social works office or area, but now you do. So we need to make sure that the design fits what the expectation is. And then also, I know that there's been various restructuring of positions, even under Mary Lou and Ben. So even the staffing needs and the spaces are somewhat different. So it definitely needs to be looked at. I know it seems like 2017 was really not that long ago, but there have been a lot of changes in positions. There have been changes in directions. They definitely have a lot more family and community engagement spaces, need now than they did prior. So all of those things need to be looked at. And then I also think it's what's the reality around the funding, right? So this is a self-funded project. If we are going to stay with what has been voted on by the bond, what are we really going to get for that now post-COVID than we did pre-COVID? What is the funding that is needed in order to do that? So we have to take another look at it. Whether that's with CHR or another design company, that also comes with a fee. So I think it's worth the conversation. to kind of look at this and to try to move it forward, because we definitely need to finish phase 2. We need to finish that portion of it. And then, this is something that is a long-standing piece of the community that is going to be utilized by the community. So we definitely want to make sure that it's appropriate and right before we engage in larger scale projects. I think the local history and the e-learning center have been great additions. It's allowed for different input from the community and different engagement. It's given services, and the local history room is just a wonderful, wonderful resource. So those are great additions. It's changed the standing of the library, and we want to continue that.
And if I could add real quick, I think the idea to fund it, so the original estimate was about $4.5 million. And over time, the library had built up a capital fund that would pay for that, but it would have to be supplemented with construction funds from the state level. Some of that funding might be in question, depending on how things play out. The IMLS funds about 12 positions at the state level that administer that funding. So there's administrative costs for handling construction aid could then come down to the system. So there could be some ripple effect we just aren't aware of yet. So that $4.5 million is also a pre-COVID number, so the cost escalations aren't there. So we need to see a more accurate estimate of what this project would cost, and then what the appropriate way to pay for it would be. So.
Specifically when it comes to the talk of the social worker in the library space, do we have a social worker here at the board?
No, we don't have, no, we don't have that, but this is like a community base, so I don't know, I think that that's actually a really cool thing. I know it's in the report, but this would be a person to just help. If there was a concern that a community member had, even with the school district, they would support. So it's about just making sure that you're understanding of what community services are and really just helping people in kind of a, service way. I can make an appointment, talk about different things, and they would help align you.
No, I was just thinking if we already had one here, we could sort of, work in a way to multitask it. So what is the ask here as far as timeline, as far as next steps from the committee, from the board, from the district?
I would like to get an answer from CS Arch if they feel that they can still attend to this project and to respond to the library's needs, because we really need a new cost estimate. We need to know what the timeline would be. And it's been difficult getting their attention. So if we can get an idea from them, if this is a project that they can or cannot handle, then we can move forward. If they feel like they can handle it, then we need to stick to a timeline. If they feel like they can't handle it, then we may have to reopen for another design proposal and figure out how we're going to fund for that. So that's really sort of the first step. And I guess just a commitment from the committee to make this a focus of what we do here. Because I think having a capital plan that reflects the community needs and literally reflects the community's voice, reflects the staff needs and their voice, that we can all work towards, it'll answer a lot of questions. If I have people come into the library like, hey, why does it still look like 1975 in here and there's not an adequate space for me to meet? You say, oh, well, hold on, check this out, here's the plan, and we're moving in that direction. So I just want to have a path charted. So to make that happen in this committee is going to be our primary work, I think.
So I imagine, sorry, John, yeah?
You had mentioned early on about community involvement. Do we have a way within the system that you're able to communicate with all our, I'm going to call them customers, cardholders, that you could ask for their input via survey, via send us your best idea, whatever that may look like?
Absolutely, John. And actually, if Patty could speak to it, we're applying for a grant right now through this global education nonprofit called IREX, but it's specifically to do this kind of work. And Patty, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So it's really through this bridge building practice that Shamichael Holman, who was here for our staff development day, this global corporation called IREX is offering these bridge building grants. And so the community engagement team and I have been working on a grant where we're getting new homeowners that possibly have moved into the area within the last year and getting them to talk with Newburgh stakeholders, people who were invited to hear Shamichael Holman speak that day, and to get the new homeowners and the people who have been in Newburgh for a long time to talk with one another, because there's issues with gentrification, and so that they can at least communicate with each other. And I was telling Ben my idea of, like, we could use this as a community conversation, but we could also use these two sets of people, new homeowners who possibly don't know about the library and all it has to offer, and these older Newburghers, or not necessarily older Newburghers, but people who have lived here a long time, who know the wealth of opportunities and the hidden gems of Newburgh, and get them talking with one another. And I thought that this would be a great group of people if we could get them talking to be useful for the strategic plan.
And that would, you know, it's sort of a turning out that wouldn't only include the city, but also the town of New Windsor and the town of Newburgh also.
Yes.
So.
Or, yeah, so I guess just make sure we keep in touch with Ms. Peterson and just try to reach out to CSR, because my concern is with so many projects going at the same time, I don't want the library to get lost or to only get half attention, you know, so, yeah, I think that's good.
All right, thanks. And lastly on the agenda, we have the strategic plan review. And we talked about this a little bit after the director's report. So this is the strategic plan that we have. And as I said, the methodology is in the back, and it looks like, you know, the previous library director just convened a committee of library staff to sort of identify some needs there. What we want to do is, again, make it more expansive. We want to have community voice in that. We want to have board members on that committee. We want to have staff on that committee. We want to work with a consultant to kind of streamline the whole process. So we're hoping that we would begin the new strategic planning process in July, and we would have that done by and ready to be implemented by January 1st, 2027. So, and in July, then we could pull the money for the consultant out of our operating budget, and depending, you know, on how much that might cost, we may have to go out for an RFP on that.
Anything, John?
I just know that the last development of this strategic plan, when it was done, there was the effort, and that was one of actually the feedback at the time, is to make sure that we do have that community. I think that there was a good representation of staff members, but for the community, because it's long and short term, so the community perspective is important. And I think at the time for this, it was also the expansion, like there was validity, there was concerns around the town branch at that time, and whether that was something the community wanted to fund. So I think it is important, and I think those networks, it's important to have that representative kind of piece, and I know that you've been increasing community engagement around it, but these goals were what the community would be looking forward to in the next 3 to 5 years, so it's important for their participation.
Anything else?
I think that's about it.
John, anything?
Oh, real quick, we have a special edition library card. So we had an NFA grad, Roxanne Contreras, designed this, and we wanted to unveil it in September, which is Library Card Sign-Up Month. And for limited time only, you can get a special new library card. We'll merge your accounts, and you will not lose your Libby holds or checkouts. And you'll get a cool special design. It's got Dante, it's got the train, it's got the bridge, it's got a cute little kid reading. So we're trying to do more to just kind of get the library out there. We have some tote bags and T-shirts, a way to kind of promote us in the community.
I think I'll go downstairs after the meeting and get mine. If that's it, that concludes the library meeting for September 3rd. Move to adjourn. Second?
Second, yep.
All in favor, say